Hello, my dearest friends. Welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt, and welcome to my first wrap up of the year. We're doing January wrap up today, my most recent reads, if you will. I actually typically read a lot during the January month because it's one of the longer winter months. I'm typically in-house, indoors, and I'm reading a lot. But this year I had an exception because I was on a 2-week holiday, as you all probably have heard in my past videos. So during those 2 weeks, I didn't read a lot. So I only have about 12 or 13 books. I'm not sure how many that I read in January. I'm still considering it a win because I only read for like 2 weeks out of the month. And I'm going to be talking about these books in this wrap up here. Some of these were interesting books. Some of them were 5-star reads. I'm very excited to talk about those. And I'm just going to go ahead and dive in with my first read of the year, which was a very interesting audiobook. I highly enjoyed the audiobook production for this one. It's called Know Your Newlywed by Hilary Nussbaum. And I think this is actually a production that was produced by Elena Armas, the author. So I was curious to see what this was all about, and I was very much entertained by it. So the story centers on, the romance centers on a hero and heroine who are both major fans of this reality TV show. And this reality TV show is the kind of TV show where they invite newlyweds, they ask them questions about themselves to see how well they know each other. And the hero and heroine are both major fans of the show, right? So when the show gets a revival on TV, they decide that they're going to fake date or actually fake marry each other so that they can participate together. And the two of them need to really quickly get to know each other so that they can be prepared for all the questions that are going to be asked during the show. And they actually become quite a hit on that show. So it's quite interesting to see how this reality TV format works whenever the hero and heroine are actually not in a real relationship. So I had a lot of fun with this one. It's a very interesting kind of take on the fake dating trope. So this one I gave 3.5 stars, and it was quite a fun start to the year. So I'm happy with my first read of the year. And then the next book that I read is one that is part of a series. It's part of a series that I read the first and second book of. The first book I really highly enjoyed. I gave that one 4 stars, I think. The second one was a bit of a miss for me. And then the third one was also not my favorite, if I have to be honest. This is the read that I had. It's like a recent release called Sleeping with the Frenemy by Natalie Kanya. It's part of her Vega family love stories, and it centers on one of the brothers in the Vega family. His name is Leo. He's a firefighter, and he has had an on again, off again relationship with his sister's best friend. Her name is Sophie. And the thing with them is that because she is his sister's best friend, they've kept their relationship under wraps. So they have kept it a secret for very many years. And they're not really willing to come forward with their relationship, even though the hero really wants that to happen. And the heroine has a very major falling out with her best friend because of a secret that her best friend was keeping from her. And that's where the story kind of goes downhill for me, because essentially the heroine in this book has been keeping a secret from her best friend for very many years that she's dating her brother, right? So it's kind of hypocritical to have this major falling out about a secret that the other person was keeping while you're doing it yourself. I gave this one 3 stars. Now, moving on to the next story, this is my first 5-star read of the year, and it's not a surprise to me. I really expected that I was going to give this book 5 stars. It's Bourbon and Secrets by Victoria Wilder. This is the second book within the Fox Brothers Bourbon series. The first one was Bourbon and Lies. I highly enjoyed that one. I gave that one 5 stars. So I was kind of expecting that this one was not going to be any different. And I was not surprised, honestly. This one is a small town romantic suspense romance where we've got the second brother, Lincoln. He is the middle brother. He is also a single dad to 2 girls because he's a widower. And he has a bit of an interesting history with the heroine. They have an animosity between them because of something that happened in the past. And the heroine has left town, and now she's coming back after some years of absence. She still has her sister living in the small town, and she has not the best relationship with her sister either. So she needs to work on getting back into her sister's good graces. The heroine is a burlesque dancer and also a private investigator who is working on a case together with the FBI that involves someone at this small town. That's why she's come back. So we've got a lot of ground for an amazing romance, right? Because we have a bit of a push and pull between the hero and heroine. There is a very good romantic suspense element. There is some backstory that needs to be unraveled. There are some very cute moments between the heroine and the hero's daughters, and there's just so much goodness to this book. I was feeling giddy when I was reading this book, the previous book as well. I just could not get enough of this small town, of this world, of these families, and I cannot wait for book 3 within the series. It's going to be coming out this year as well, so I'm just too excited. I'm just too excited about this series. I hope that there's going to be more books because I just love them. Now, the next book is an MC romance that is the second book within a series. I read the first book last year. I enjoyed that one. I gave it 4 stars, and this one unfortunately didn't really work for me. This is Where We Belong by Ashley Munoz. It centers on the hero who is the VP of, so the vice president of this motorcycle club. He was hoping or wanting or expecting to become the president, but instead he got the VP position. So he has been kind of pissed off about that. His best friend did become the president, but then things happened within the story that kind of changed up the whole kind of positions within the MC. And the thing with the MC romances is some of them really work for me whenever there is a very good kind of romantic suspense situation, and whenever we really have good fleshed out stories of at least one of the characters. And with this one, I felt that the heroine was not really, she didn't really have a very good backstory of her own. It was like she was thrown into this MC world and she was at the beck and call and doing whatever was supposed to happen within the plot progression for the book to progress, if you get what I mean. So for me, this just did not work as well as the first book. For the first book, there was a very front and center conflict between the hero and heroine. For this one, the hero was fleshed out, but the heroine just did not work for me. So unfortunately, I didn't enjoy this one as much. I gave this one 3 stars. Now, the next book I read just before I went on holiday, and I have to tell you that when I was researching what I should say about all these books, I have completely forgotten what this book is about, which does not bode well for how much I enjoyed it. I gave that one 3 stars, by the way. This is Amid Clouds and Bones by Ella Fields. This is a romantasy book that has very much the enemies to lovers vibe between the hero and heroine. There is an arranged marriage between them to kind of ally their kingdoms, and the hero is very much a villain in this story. And there is kind of a love triangle going on, but not really, because we do know who the hero is in the story. So it's kind of, I don't know, I think that the thing that didn't work for me is really the fact that it was very much reliant on the physical attraction, and the world building took a back seat to the physical aspect. So not even the romance, but really the physical attraction between the two characters, and their enemies to lovers situation really went from enemies not really to lovers, but to like fuck buddies. I don't know how to say it in a different way. So I don't know. This was just not my favorite. So yeah, I honestly wouldn't recommend this one. Now, the next 2 books are books that I read while I was on holiday, and both of them I really highly enjoyed. I'm really happy about that, because while I was on holiday, I didn't have a lot of time to read, but the moments that I was reading something that I was enjoying. So that contributed to my amazing feeling during my holiday, honestly. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Wolf. Is it Wolf or Wolf E? Because it's Wolf.E in the title. I don't know how you say this name of this title, but anyway, it's by Paisley Hope. This is another MC romance where we've got a heroine who kind of is down on her luck when it comes to everything within her life, because she has just lost her job. She has just broken up with her boyfriend, and she decides that she needs to switch everything up, and she moves back to her small hometown where she still has her house that was left to her by her parents. So she has somewhere to live, but she doesn't have somewhere to work. So she's looking for a job in her small town, and already on the first day back, she encounters one of her best friends from way back when. and she gets roped into attending her previous best friend's wedding. And her best friend is marrying someone from the motorcycle club that is very notorious in this small town. And the thing with this heroine is that she has been taught her whole life that she should steer away from the motorcycle club. They're bad people doing bad business. So she has a lot of prejudices, a lot of kind of back thoughts that are kind of cautious about the MC. But at the same time, when she meets the president of the club, Wolf, she immediately has this kind of an attraction to him. She's very intrigued by him. She is scared of him to some extent. So there is a lot of push and pull when it comes to their relationship. And at the same time, we've got the president, Wolf, who is immediately captivated by the heroine. He wants to break down her walls. He wants to show her that what she sees is not what she gets when it comes to the MC. So I really highly enjoyed this one. There were certain scenes that were sometimes a bit too much for me when it comes to the spice, but regardless, I still enjoyed it. I gave this one 4 stars. Now, the next book I'm going to talk about is by Laura Pavlov. This is the first book within her newly released series. It just came out. It's called Steal My Heart. And this one is kind of a companion series to her Magnolia Falls series, because we do get characters from that series appearing in this book. And this one is a small town, enemies to lovers, boss, employee, but at the same time, boss's daughter situation, because the heroine, she's going to be interning at her dad's law firm under the hero. So he is her boss, but at the same time, she is his boss's daughter. So there is a lot of interesting vibes going on there. At the same time, we get the situation where the hero kind of has preconceived notions about the heroine, thinking that she is kind of trying to ride her dad's coattails, that she's not really equipped to be kind of within his world. He thinks that she doesn't have the qualifications, even though she graduated from Harvard. So he is kind of prejudiced against her, and she is dead set on proving him wrong. So I love that we have a strong heroine who is definitely, she knows her worth, and she's going to be proving to anyone that she is not just her daddy's daughter. She has the brains and the will to prove everyone wrong. And I love that about the book. I loved certain scenes when it comes to certain pickleball situations, and I just had a lot of fun with this one. I give this one 4 stars. Next up, we've got my next 5-star read. I highly enjoyed this book. It's The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I highly suspect that this is going to be a 5-star read for a lot of people. I also highly suspect that this is going to be blowing up this month with a lot of people who are going to be reviewing it, because if I'm not mistaken, this is going to be a book of the month pick. So yeah, this is an interesting kind of a book that has been compared to Daisy Jones and the Six because of the formatting of the book. We've got a situation where we are encountering the story as it progresses through interviews of certain characters that are involved in the story. And we've got a hero and heroine who are both figure skaters. They've known each other since they were kids. They are wanting to compete in the Olympics. However, both of them come from a very rough background. They're both poor, essentially. And this is a kind of sport, a competitive sport that is very expensive. So they are thrown into this world of scandal, betrayal, love, friendships, fights, and a lot of drama, some rivalry, and just a very savage kind of an environment for people who are just starting off their life and need to go ahead and compete. And I just loved the audiobook production for this book. Obviously, a lot of people are comparing it to Daisy Jones and the Six, and I understand why. But for me, I'm drawing comparisons to Carrie Soto is Back, because in Carrie Soto is Back, we have a kind of an unlikable kind of a heroine, and in this one, we also have the same kind of a situation. And also it involves a competitive sport. In this one, we've got figure skating. In Carrie Soto is Back, we've got tennis. So I'm kind of drawing comparisons to that book as well. And I was so immersed into the story. I really was entertained in different ways throughout the first 30% of the book. I was feeling kind of anxiety, and I was kind of feeling pissed off on behalf of certain characters. And then when the book progressed, I was kind of hopeful that they would get together and that their love would find a way and that they would get to the Olympics. Just I was feeling all kinds of things, like a roller coaster of different kinds of emotions with this book, and it definitely deserves a 5-star mark. Now, next up, I read one of my anticipated releases of January, which was Fight by Sloan St. James. This is part of a new series that focuses on wildfire firefighters. This one centers on our hero, Cal, who has had a very rough time when it comes to romance, because he used to be engaged. He used to be in a very long committed relationship, but he got cheated on. So he became the perpetual playboy after that. He is not ready to commit after what has happened to him. And then we've got our heroine, who has escaped a very religious cult. She's trying to make a life for herself. She's starting from zero, and she is going to be an EMT for the small town. So they're kind of working together, and they are running in the same circles. Let me put it like that. And the thing is, when they meet up, they immediately have a physical connection together. So they start up a physical relationship. But at the same time, the hero finds out certain things about her past. So immediately he's like, yeah, I'm not going to go there. And then one day they go on a hike separately, and the heroine kind of comes into this very difficult situation. There is an unexpected storm, and the hero saves her, and they get snowed in together. So there is this forced proximity situation with the only one bed trope because of this storm that is blown in. So we've got a lot of things going on in this book, and I did appreciate certain things within the story. So the setting, the small town, the found family, the backstories of each of the characters, I highly appreciate it. But when it comes to the romance, I didn't like that it's more kind of based on the physical and not so much on their gradual relationship forming because of everything that they're going through together. So for me, this was a 3.5-star read. I did enjoy it, and I'm going to be continuing on with the series, but I had hoped for a bit more. And then I don't think that there is a romance or romantasy reader who didn't read Onyx Storm when it released, me included. I read Onyx Storm in the same week that it released. I got the audiobook for it through Storytel, and I have to tell you that unfortunately, I'm one of the people who did not enjoy this book. I did not reread Fourth Wing. I did not reread Iron Flame. What I did is I watched recap videos that were kindly provided by Jess from Honest Fiction. She does such a splendid job when it comes to catching up people with these kinds of series so that you don't need to reread the book. So I did those recap videos, and then I started on the book. And like very many people who are in my position, I was like, who are these people? There were so many characters thrown into the mix from the first 20% of the book that I was kind of struggling to keep up. At the same time, one of the things that kind of really irked me about Onyx Storm, that I think I also had the same kind of remark about Iron Flame, is that the audiobook narrator for this series is making the characters seem younger than they are. So the way that she's narrating them, the characters sound very young, very petty at times, and it just irks me to no end because they're supposed to be somewhere in their 20s and they sound like they're 16-year-olds who are like stomping their feet when they're speaking, and that just bothered me to no end. So that is a side note that I just wanted to mention. And then when it comes to the progression of the book, the whole quest within this book, I cannot mention what is going on, obviously, because it's a third book, so I don't want to spoil it. But there is a quest within this book that involves the dragons and what is going to be happening with the venom, and it just lost me. At some point, I was so bored with the story. I was like, can we just get a move on and see what is going to happen with the main points, like the priorities within this book? And there were some questions that we still had from Iron Flame that just never got answered in this book. We were focusing on completely different things, and it just got to be a bit too much when it comes to what we're trying to do here. And I completely understand that the author, she's had so much pressure on her because of how hyped these books have become. And I can completely understand that she she's probably rushed, and she probably is also wondering where to go in the story now that there are so many expectations and theories about these books. But at the same time, I have to say that when it comes to fantasy books, if we get to a point where there's going to be 6, 7, or 8 books, and this is the kind of third book that we have, I don't think that I'm going to make it to the end. Like, I have FOMO, so I have this fear of missing out. So I think I'm going to be picking up the next book when it releases. But if that book is just as a disappointing book as this one, then I'm not going to be continuing on with the series, because it's become kind of tiresome for me to be keeping up with all these characters, who does what, who is with what, and who is important to what point in this book, and are they all important at all to this story, and where are we going and what are we doing. I feel like we have absolutely no progression when it comes to like the whole war situation. So yeah, I did not enjoy this book, and I did not rate it on Goodreads because I don't want to have to mark down this book because of my personal opinion. Like, Goodreads is for that, obviously, that you have to be able to put your thoughts and opinions into a rating, right? But at the same time, because Rebecca Yarros has been so pressured into putting out this book, I just feel uncomfortable with rating it. For me, if I have to give it a rating, I'll give it 2 stars, but I've just left it unrated, and I've just expressed that I'm disappointed with how this book has progressed. Now, fortunately, I read some very good books after Onyx Storm, so I'm happy that my reading kind of picked up after that. I picked up a debut author. Her name is Erin Connor. I had this book on my anticipated releases of 2025 list, and I was very happy to get the audiobook for this one. It's called Unromance. And this one has the grumpy sunshine trope, forced proximity, opposites attract, fake dating, because we've got a heroine who is a romance author, and she's been kind of in a funk where she has writer's block. She is on a deadline. She cannot make her deadline because she doesn't have a story yet. And she goes to this regular bar where she always has her beverage there, and she gets stuck in the elevator with this guy whom she has this conversation with about meet cutes, because she's obviously a romance writer and she's stuck in an elevator with someone who actually is afraid of elevators. So she kind of tries to talk him down. They go on about their ways after this meet cute, and then they strike up a conversation in this bar, and they decide to fake date each other. The reason for the fake dating is because the heroine needs some inspiration for her book, and the hero is the kind of hopeless romantic who always catches himself in falling in love with a person without wanting to fall in love with them, if you get what I mean. So there's always this quick progression of his feelings, and he wants to find out how to stop it. Like, if he goes on these romantic dates, he wants to figure out a way to not be influenced by them, by the romance of them. So they have the situation of going on these fake dates, and obviously feelings commence out of this. And I really highly enjoyed this one. I had such fuzzy feelings when it came to the dates. I had a very good connection with the hero because he was the sunshiny character, the heroine was the grumpy character, and I just had a lot of fun with it. I gave this one 4 stars. The next book is another new release, which is called Give Me Butterflies by Gillian Meadows. This is the second book by this author, the first one being a holiday romance that I also read and enjoyed. This one features a single dad, but he's not the regular single dad. He's more of a guardian because his sister passed away, and he's taking care of his nieces. And we've got a heroine who works at the same museum as the hero. Now, the heroine is wanting to get a promotion in the museum, and he is on the board of deciding whether she's going to get the position. So there is kind of this forbidden aspect to their relationship, and there is very much a grumpy sunshine situation going on, opposites attract. And because the two of them bump into each other on very many occasions, where the heroine does stuff that kind of put them at odds with each other, there is a bit of an enemies to lovers situation in here as well. We definitely have also a situation of the hero falls first and a reluctant heroine in this scenario as well. So giving you all these tropes, I hope that it paints a picture without me having to tell you what the story progresses into, because I think that going into it as blind as possible will give you the most enjoyment out of the book. Now, the last romance was quite kind of adorable and endearing, and another one that is quite adorable and endearing as well is my last read of January, which was Once Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Lees. This is part of her series that focuses on Shakespeare retellings. This is the third book, focusing on the third sister within this series. And from the previous books, we found out that this sister had her heart broken, an engagement got broken off with her and another guy. And she has kind of vowed to not fall in love again, that she's focusing on herself and her own growth. So she is this kind of hopeless romantic that has vowed to not fall in love again. The hero, on the other side, he is neurodivergent, and she also there is a representation for her. I'm not sure what kind of a disability she has, but I think it's something that has to do with her joints or with her muscle movement. I'm not sure what exactly it was, but there is a representation for a condition that she is dealing with. So there is really good representation for both of the characters. So he's neurodivergent and he's kind of on the odds with dating in general. He feels kind of socially awkward, and the two of them keep on bumping into each other in different occasions. So they decide to fake date as well, because there is a certain kind of expectation from him. And for herself, it's more so kind of also getting used to being in romantic situations without having to feel romance within those situations. So the two of them are so cute. The situation that they get themselves into are so endearing, and the care with which the two characters are kind of wanting to teach each other things when it comes to romance is just so cute and so heartwarming. I think Chloe Lees always does such a wonderful job when it comes to taking care of the anxieties when it comes to the different aspects of romance for certain kinds of characters, and she just does a really wonderful job with being careful with her characters, really trying to give them the care that they need. So I highly enjoyed this one as well, and I gave this one 4 stars. All right, so now that we've wrapped up January, I'm really looking forward to the February reads, because there's going to be so many amazing releases in February, and I already have a couple of books lined up that I think are going to be 5-star reads. So I'm very much looking forward to wrapping up February as well already. But anyway, please let me know what you've been reading in January, which books were your favorites of the month. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I read and what you thought of them. And I hope to see you in the next one. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you very soon. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care, and bye-bye.